What common parenting technique will actually really mess up your kids? Guilt-based parenting. This was arguably the only tool in my mom's arsenal, and the end result was that I spent my teen years believing all displays of hurt or offense were power plays. Yeah, my mom did that for a while, but it stopped working. I told her she used it too much, and I built up a tolerance. She told me that it was a terrible thing, that my conscience was so broken. I'm not quite sure what response she was hoping for with that one, but okay. MFW my parents who made him who I'm complain to me about how I am. Strict parents think that they are raising honest, smart and obedient children. But really they raised me to be a really good liar. I was recently making this mistake with my toddler, first child. He kept making the same mistake over and over again, and I started to lose my cool and really reined in on this area. Well, a week later, instead of telling me about what happened, he lied about it at 3 years old. Broke my heart that I had put him in a spot where he'd rather hide what happened than talk to me. Did a full 180, apologized, and took a different approach. Literally have not had the same issue again. Parenting is all about making mistakes and adjusting. It's hard because you have no idea what to do, but you have got to keep looking for weak spots and improving. To be fair, lying is an important developmental milestone. All kids do it, but the ones that do it really young are smarter. No, seriously. Pro tip. Believe some of his small lies. You don't want him to become such a good liar you can't tell when it's happening. What you want is for him to feel comfortable enough that there's no reason to lie, and it's a normal, natural thing for kids between 3 to 6 to lie, even when they don't need to. Not allowing kids to make decisions and experience consequences leaves them unprepared for adulthood. My kid's dad never lets him fail or experience much consequence for his negative behavior. He also will address our kid at every beck and call, no practicing patience whatsoever. He always tries to fix whatever is wrong, and never wants him to experience any sort of disappointment. Thankfully, he's not over there much. Edit, spelling my bad. Beck and call. There are so many, but one of my top ones is scolding a child for asking too many questions. This is huge for me. My parents would actively discourage me from asking questions, lie when they didn't know the answers, and then ultimately began telling me that I was too stupid to understand the answers. It wasn't true, and here I'm nearly 40, still fighting to understand that I'm an intelligent human being, and still having trouble asking questions about anything. It's awful. I have the same issue, except other way around. I ask a lot of questions and still end up feeling lost sometimes. But that doesn't stem from my parents, but rather school and the like. Not listening to them when they tried to explain something. Screaming at them to shut up constantly. Not allowing them friends or social contacts, beating the shit out of them for any infraction. Very popular and common parenting techniques for South Asians. Disclaimer. Come from the same group. My mom does the first 3, but not the last one. Helicopter parenting. How do you expect your kid to thrive in the real world if you make all the decisions for him? My mom would do this until the last day of my high school years. Now that I look back to it, it made me feel useless. Like I would never be able to take care of myself. Letting your youngest child get away with abusing your older child and then blaming the older child and getting mad at them for saying mean things about the younger child while simultaneously telling the older child that if the older child ever did anything to hurt the older child would be punished. I know this can really mess up a kid because I'm the kid. My parents did this, and not only did it mess my sister up as she got away with everything, but it permanently damaged our relationship so much that I always get sad when I see normal siblings. The thing I hate the most is when people tell me that I will love her in the future. I'm like, sure, I'll love the person who raped me twice, stabbed me, chased me with a duck-eye knife for years, physically abused me up until 2018. Constantly steals from me, and is always treating me like shit. I can totally see that happening with my lovely little sister. Using force to get your way. My parents never forced me to talk if I didn't want to, and never spanked me if I did something wrong. Now I'm willing to talk to them and own up to my mistakes without fear of yelling or violence. My friend's parents used to do this when he was around 5, but stopped when they realized that spanking him didn't do anything helpful and only made his problems worse in the long term. Love withdrawal or affection denial for perceived inadequacies or transgressions. Really? I don't do the dishes for one day and now my depression isn't valid. She'll tell me she doesn't want to talk about it if I can't be a responsible human. Never-ending cycle. I'm sorry, people exposed to this usually need therapy to heal the emotional damage as adults. Hope you make a better, happier future for yourself. Being super nosy into their lives, especially when they're teenagers. Kids just learn to lie this way. Sometimes, learning how to dress up the truth can be helpful. Politics, insurance, banks. Being overly protective. People learn best by making mistakes. Failure is a better teacher than success. Someone smart. Probably. Back in high school I've had people I knew completely break down when they fail because either their parents would be furious with them or they were so not used to being perfect that they had no idea how to handle it. Comparing your kids to other kids to motivate them. This happened. I hated it. Still do. I'm your big buddy. Yep. Lorelei's relationship with Rory was dysfunctional, codependent and toxic on Gilmore Girls. Rory was mostly the parent in that relationship. Parenting without taking temperament into account. Growing up, I didn't need a whole lot of parenting because 1. I need to make my own mistakes in order to learn anything, and 2. I have been incredibly self-sufficient from a young age. My brother on the other hand needed a lot more hand-holding than I did. He's 23 and is unemployed with a college degree and will probably never move out of home. He needs to be told what to do and needs structure, while I never needed that because I did it for myself. Yeah, tailor your parenting to your kid. There's no one size fits all parenting besides the basic shit like give your kid healthy food. Freaking out or getting mad when they try to tell you something just makes them never want to tell you anything. I still never know how my parents will react when I want to tell them something, so I don't, and I'm 25 years old. My mom's reactions have always been unpredictable. It really depends on her mood that day coupled with how high her blood pressure is. But I never know how she's going to take something that has any emotional weight, good or bad. My dad was predictable. He either didn't care or he got mad. And while we were all scared of him growing up, he was pretty stable and predictable compared to my mom while growing up. Excessive restrictions and interrogations. I know this is probably just me, and I should probably save it for our/in parents, but you asked. I was homeschooled, which I don't regret. But anytime I mentioned a video game, example, my mom would ask, where did you hear about that? Or who told you that? Whenever I was texting someone or messaging someone in a game, she would say, how do you know this person? I was not allowed to play video games for years, although Lego Star Wars was a staple of my childhood from 8 and up, and even when she was convinced they caused violence. I'm a metalhead and Doom is one of my favorite games, and I'm one of the nicest, quietest, most non-confrontational people you will ever meet. Music and video games have no effect on violence. Violent people will be violent no matter what, and anything involving zombies or magic was strictly prohibited. I also couldn't have Bionicles for years because they looked demonic. No social media, no YouTube. The internet was, and still is, tightly controlled and filtered. I'm almost 20 BTW, even though all my college courses use YouTube. Covenantes. I have found many ways to circumvent almost all her restrictions at one time or another. The moral of the story is that strict parents raise good liars, and I'm certain it's what seeded my anxiety and depression that I'm still dealing with. I stopped asking for certain things or telling her about things because it wasn't worth the time or energy to put up with the interrogation. I couldn't talk about how I wanted to die and how I would get up in the morning and just sleep on the floor because I didn't have the energy to function. Everything she did came from love, but the execution was damaging in some aspects. I will say that she has mellowed out significantly in recent years, and we have a much better, not perfect, relationship now. Honestly, my main suggestion is to just relax, take it easy, be reasonable, and put yourself in your child's shoes. I know this is long and I'm sorry, I just had to get it out of my brain. The phrase sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you. Many years ago I saw that phrase as sticks and stones only break bones. Words can shatter the soul. I still think about it a lot. I still get sad thinking about the time my friend called me fat when we were kids. I had huge self-image problems about my weight, and it stung like a bitch for a while after that. Being too strict. I had no experience interacting with peers or even navigating life in the most basic sense. I got taken advantage of a lot in my early 20s. Luckily I met a psychopath who taught me everything on Feo. Didn't end well. Have a few issues, but what I learned from the guy was priceless. He was impressed by me and decided to take me for his right hand. I had a similar experience with a formerly terrible person that was turning their life around. But they taught me a lot and never made me feel bad for being naive. Being super babying about love interests. Things like, oh I'm going to show your girlfriend all your baby pics _ only sows distrust, and they will only be more secretive and less open about their relationships, which actually lead to its own cocktail of intimacy and relationship issues. Yeah, I have a female friend who never told her parents when she started dating because of how her mom behaved. She was with this guy for over a year, even lost her V card to him, and they have no idea he even exists. I've had a GF for 4 years now, and I still haven't introduced her to my family for this exact reason. Well, some things my parents did and still do: berate your child verbally after coming home from work isn't a good start. Also, making it impossible for them to solve problems, let alone making getting help from you impossible or counterproductive, is also very detrimental in many ways. Making an ass of yourself in public and behaving like a child around your kids in general is another great way to give your child severe anxiety and possibly other mental health / behavior issues. Forcing yourself into their private life and constantly embellishing yourself and taking control of your kid's social life is probably the no. One way to duck your child socially. Withholding food from your underweight child and putting restrictions on food is a great way to give your child health issues in the future. Improper bedding also leads to health issues. Talking down to them and treating them like a child in general when they very much aren't anymore is very degrading and detrimental to your kid's mental health. Edit. Okay, that's enough, sorry for ranting. The last one really hit though. Lying to your kids for their own good. My dad did not tell me about my grandmother, whom I was very close with, passing away, so I found out from a text 3 days afterwards from her best friend, who was sending her condolences. Long story short, I lost my mind and it still makes me mad to this day. Teasing them about crushes or things they are excited about. That's what siblings are for. Duh. Destroying what a child owns as punishment. My mom sold my almost brand new, I got it 2 weeks earlier, DSi XL, which I got for $100 at a yard sale for $20, and she deleted the 100% progress game files on many of my DS games. Why? Because I didn't sweep and mop the ducking floor fast enough for her standards. I'm so sorry. I really don't understand the mentality of destroying someone else's personal property to teach someone a lesson. All that's teaching the kid is ho when you're older you can give gifts to people, and when they disappoint you, go grab those stuff back and burn them, cause that's what normal people do, ho. Physical punishment. I was straight up whooped as a child and quickly noticed that the punishment had little to do with the actual infraction and more to do with my parents' mood. Far too easy for parents to take out their frustrations rather than instill discipline. It also teaches kids that violence is a valid coping strategy and method for getting your way. Violence is sometimes necessary, but should be only for self-defense. But that's not what spanking teaches. Close bracket. My dad gets really frustrated over small stuff, leaving something out of place that's apparently in the way that bothers not anyone else. if we misunderstand what he's trying to say, etc. Close bracket. He doesn't do anything for SE, but get kind of mad. My parents then wonder why me and my sister are the same way. To a lesser extent. It's mind-boggling how people don't realize how much stuff like that imprints, and then they get mad at you for it. Emotional invalidation and shaming children for having big emotions. Phrases like "get over it," "you're fine," "nothing is wrong with ja," as well as punishing children for expressing their emotions are all part of the problem. Are you a emotionless robot? No? Then why would you expect the same from your children, who have even less practice? Mind-boggling to me. It has reached epidemic levels in Western society and is the single biggest contributor to addiction and mental health issues later in life. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.